What's going on YouTube? Bacon here bringing another video. This one going to be week 2 of the OLT Harmony division. This week we are taking on Jarrett, coach of the Los Angeles Lookers. Looking to take a little bit of a step forward here after a loss last week. Started out 0-1 of course on my end, and Jarrett actually won his first game, so he's starting at 1-0. Definitely don't want to start off the season 0-2. That's really not a good look for playoffs in a season that's 8 weeks long, so hopefully able to pick up a W here, but my opponent's definitely got a very threatening team on tap for me here. So let's get right into the matchup. Looking at his team, he's got Mega Gallade, Manaphy, Zapdos, Nidoqueen, Bronzong, Alolan Persian, Blacephalon, Licky Licky, Tyrantrum, Aromatisse, and Lurantis. So a couple things off the bat. Setup-wise, the Manaphy is actually really threatening if he's running like Tail Glow plus Z Rain Dance with the right coverage, which I guess in this case would be something like Energy Ball plus Ice Beam. No water type move. Might be able to do it versus me. Kinda, sort of. Tail Glow at the very least is very threatening to my team because I don't have a whole lot of Pokemon that are over base 100 speed. So even if he's just running like a Tail Glow leftover set, I don't have a whole lot on my team that can OHKO him regardless. And I don't want to bring my Rotom Heat this week, and that's really the only thing that's going to be hitting it super effectively outside of my Celebi, which I did bring. So the Manaphy setup variant is just definitely very threatening. The Mega Gallade is very threatening. Obviously it speed ties with my Mega Diancie, which I am forcing this week with my Mega Diancie's investment. But Mega Gallade just hits like a freaking truck, man. It's really hard to take hits from that thing. Celebi's certainly not going to do the job. I did bring Cofagrigus to help deal with the Gallade, but even then that's kind of like a band-aid at best. So Mega Gallade, huge threat for sure. Also the Blacephalon, I can't take hits from Blacephalon. Crocodile's my Ghost Resist, and that's still taking a sizable chunk of damage from Shadow Ball, especially if he starts to stack Beast Boost on his Blacephalon. I am expecting him to run Choice Scarf this week to make sure he outruns my Mega Diancie, and would also outrun like a +1 Dragonite as well. Definitely seems to make some sense from the Blacephalon. And then Fire-type moves, my only good switch-ins are like Rotom Heat and Volcanion. And like I mentioned, not bringing Rotom Heat this week, and Volcanion doesn't super appreciate eating a Shadow Ball either. So definitely some big threats on his side of the field. Hopefully not going to have too much of an issue getting through him, but it's definitely a difficult matchup for sure. The Bronzong even is actually really difficult for me to deal with just because it walls my Mega Diancie pretty hard. He's presumably running Levitate, and I'm not running HP Fire this week, not that it would do that much anyway. So if he's running like Spadef Bronzong, there's not a whole lot Diancie can do to touch that thing. So let's get into my team builder here. What I brought, led off with Nixon the Crocodile, running leftovers Crocodile with Intimidate, Stealth Rock Knockoff, Earthquake, and Pursuit. I got my speed EVs right on my Crocodile this time, so I am hitting the correct speed this time around. I'm actually looking to outrun Nidoqueen in this instance based on his speed tiers. So I was able to run a good bit of bulk as well on the Crocodile, which is nice to help me potentially take a hit from the Blacephalon if I really need to. But in general, I'm running max attack, Jolly Nature on the Crocodile. Can also come in on the Zapdos reasonably well throughout the course of the match. He's kind of got 4 move slot syndrome on the Zapdos because you normally want Roost, like Discharge. He'd want Heat Wave to hit my Scizor, and then maybe like Defog, for example, would be something he'd like to run on his Zapdos. So he's got some 4 move slot syndrome, and that means Crocodile should be able to come in potentially on that thing and just get some items off him with knockoff. In general, Pursuit's really nice there to help trap the Bronzong. The Bronzong, like I mentioned, is a huge problem for my Mega Diancie, but if the Bronzong is gone, he really doesn't have switch-ins to Mega Diancie, so if I can Pursuit trap that thing, he's going to be in a lot of trouble moving forward. So that's why we're running the Dual Dark on Crocodile this week. Next up here is Grace, the Mega Diancie, running Moonblast, Earth Power, Power Gem, and Calm Mind this week. So Calm Mind Mega Diancie actually really puts in the hurt on his team. At +2, I OHKO everything, I think, bar the Bronzong. And I just can potentially run through his team if I can Pursuit trap that thing with my Crocodile. Calm Mind is also really nice because it can help me stack boosts versus things like the Zapdos. Obviously, versus Zapdos, I'm potentially risking a Discharge para, so that might not necessarily be something I want to do. But if I'm predicting him to switch into like a Manaphy or something, without a Z move, he shouldn't be able to OHKO me once I hit +1. And because I'm not running Diamond Storm, I can actually run just kind of a normal type nature on my Diancie. I'm actually running Timid this week as opposed to like a Hasty nature, which you normally need to run with Diamond Storm to make sure that's doing some damage. Because I'm running full special, I don't need to worry about that. So Calm Mind Mega Diancie can definitely put in the work on his team, especially if I win a speed tie versus the Gallade. Not necessarily something I'm going to risk, but it's something I could if I feel like there's like potential for him to sword stance and potentially sweep me, or if my Pythagoras is low, whatever the case might be. May need to risk that speed tie with my Mega Diancie. Next up here is Glade of the Dragonite, running Dragonium Z Dragonite with Dragon Dance, Outrage, Earthquake, and Fire Punch. Running Jolly Nature, pretty close to max speed to guarantee I outrun the Nidoqueen. It's very, very important that I outrun the Nidoqueen because I don't have good switch-ins to that thing. So I should be able to hit it pretty hard with a Z Outrage. It should OHKO an offensive variant of Nidoqueen from full, and even if it doesn't, at least I get some big damage off to help like my Diancie potentially break through it later in the game. Dragonite's job is just to kind of punch a hole in his team. At +1, Z Outrage should knock out the Zapdos, guaranteed to after Stealth Rocks. And just really put in dent versus team. Again, this is another thing that's really nice to trap the Bronzong with Pursuit. If I can get rid of that thing, I can just fire off my Z and just nuke something on his team. Fire Punch is going to hit the Bronzong pretty hard at +1. It should 2-hit KO him, unless he's running Heat Proof. And then I also have Earthquake on this thing anyways. If he is running Heat Proof, Earthquake also hits the Nidoqueen particularly hard as well, so I don't necessarily have to use my Z on that if I do get a +1 off. Earthquake also hits like the Blacephalon as well, so don't think he'd bring Aromatisse to this match, but even if he does, I've got other things on my team that can deal with that, and Dragonite should be able to punch a hole through something. Next up here is Tekala Volcanion, running Assault Vest Volcanion with Steam Eruption, Fire Blast, Sludge Bomb, and Flame Charge. So Assault Vest Volcanion can take a hit from the Manaphy. Sludge Bomb's obviously not doing a ton back to it, but if I hit it with like a Moon Blast from my Mega Diancie, he should be in range of a Sludge Bomb or potentially 2 Sludge Bombs at that range. And with Flame Charge, I should be able to boost my speed, which is kind of neat because you can boost your speed while still having the boost from the Assault Vest. It's really the only way to do it, is with an attack that actually boosts your speed, because obviously you can't use status moves with the Assault Vest. But Flame Charge is actually really nice for his team, because if he's not running Choice Scarf Cephalon, or Choice Scarf anything for that matter, Volcanion's actually going to outrun his whole team. He can really put in the hurt on him with Steam Eruption plus Fire Blast. This is a great way for me to pressure out the Bronzong or potentially take advantage of it, and just fire off some really strong hits versus his team. Like I mentioned, the Manaphy being healthy would be a little bit of a problem for this set, but Manaphy's not doing a ton back to me anyways. I believe Sludge Bomb is a 3-hit KO, depending on the bulk that he's running, so Volcanion definitely really important in this match. I can also take a hit from a +1 Blacephalon. Like I mentioned, I think he'd be running, after Stealth Rocks that is, like I mentioned, I think he'd be running a Choice Scarf Blacephalon, so if he picks something off a Shadow Ball, gets a Beast Boost, normally that would just kind of sweep through my team. Volcanion is kind of a relief valve to prevent that from happening. Next up here is Serenity the Celebi, running Leftover Celebi with Leech Seed, U-Turn, Giga Drain, and Psychic. Max HP, pretty close to max Spadef, but with a Timid Nature. That guarantees again that I outrun the Nidoqueen and be able to whack that thing with a Psychic, put it in range of my Mega Diancie. But this is kind of the main check to Manaphy. At full, I do live a +3 Ice Beam from the Manaphy, so unless he's running like Sub-Zero Slammer on his Manaphy, he shouldn't be able to blow through my Celebi with a kind of neutral +3 Ice Beam. If he's running Life Orb, that'll be a problem, I guess, as well, but should be able to take hits from the Manaphy over the course of the match. Spread Leech Seed around his team. I can also potentially take hits from the Zapdos. Even Heat Wave really isn't doing that much to this kind of Spadef Celebi, and I should be getting a lot back with Leech Seed, and he really doesn't have great Psychic switch-ins besides the Bronzong once again. I am definitely expecting to see the Bronzong, but the Leech Seed there is also nice to predict the switch to Bronzong. Get the Leech Seed off, he might be pressured to switch out and not set up Stealth Rocks, for example. So that can be really nice for me later in the game. Give me an opportunity to get in something like my Volcanion. Last up here is Sarcophagus, the Pythagoras. I didn't really want to bring Pythagoras here, but I really didn't have much of a better way to deal with the Gallade. I'm running max HP, max Fizz Def Pythagoras, Will-O-Wisp, Haze, Pain Split, and Shadow Ball. The crazy thing is, at +2, Gallade is still kind of likely to OHKO me with a +2 knockoff. I can't remember what the roll is exactly, but I think it's something like a 40 or 50% chance to OHKO me if he's +2 and he hits me with a knockoff, which is just insane. Will-O-Wisp is there to burn that thing specifically. It can also haze in front of the Manaphy so he can't set up on me. And then Pain Split's there just to keep me healthy over the course of the match. I do have the leftovers to help a little bit with that, but if I am taking a lot of hits from the Gallade, if he's just throwing off attacks rather than going for Swords Dance, I might be taking a lot of damage from that thing over the course of the match and need to Pain Split up. And then Shadow Ball just hits his team pretty hard. It should blow away the Blacephalon, which has like no bulk to begin with, and also does a good chunk of damage to the Gallade as well. So that's it for the team builder here. Let's get right into the match. As you can see, he did bring the Nidoqueen, Zapdos, Gallade, Bronzong, Manaphy, and Blacephalon. So these are actually the exact 6 that I was expecting to see in this match, so that's good. But it's still threatening. Like, Choice Scarf Blacephalon is kind of what I'm pegging off the bat here. It's a huge threat versus my team, especially because, like, if I was running Choice Scarf Crocodile, it would outspeed that as well. I'm not, but, like, Choice Scarf Blacephalon just makes a ton of sense in my head. Tail Glow variant of Manaphy is going to be hugely problematic for my team. He doesn't even really need the Z-Rain Dance for the speed boost if he wants the coverage. It could definitely be very problematic for me. Bronzong is a huge problem. I need to Pursuit Trap that thing with my Crocodile to open up a door for my Diancie, and the Nidoqueen's also going to need to take some chunk damage off of it as well. And like I mentioned in my team builder, the Gallade is just a huge threat. Really puts in the hurt on my team with like knockoff plus dual stab and then Swords Dance. So yeah, so looking at lead matchup here, I feel like my Crocodile is my best lead. If he happens to lead right off the rip with Gallade, at least I'll take an Intimidate and I can go into my Cfagrigus. Otherwise, if he leads with Bronzong, I can get a knockoff going. If he leads with Zapdos, I can knock that thing off, get up my Stealth Rocks potentially, which would be really nice to whittle down the Blacephalon and the Zapdos at the very least. And if he leads with Nidoqueen, this is really my best counter lead to Nidoqueen in general, was leading with the Crocodile, because I don't want to lead off with my Dragonite and then have to go right for the Z move on the Nidoqueen, and like he could go into Bronzong, so I didn't really want to play that game, and I felt like Crocodile was kind of the best option to avoid that, so that's exactly what I'm going to do here. I'm going to lead off with Crocodile as my opponent elects to lead off with the Zapdos, actually. So Zapdos comes out here, gets intimidated, of course, and I do not see pressure, so I know that he's static. So what I'm going to do first, actually, is get up my Stealth Rock, see what he wants to do. Kind of expecting him to switch out, actually, but he just goes straight for the Toxic. So since he's carrying Toxic, I know he's missing some kind of move, because presumably he's got Roost, Heat Wave, and Discharge, right? So he might be missing Defog. I don't really know, but if he is missing Defog, that means my Stealth Rocks are actually here to stay, which is great. And he does show Heat Wave, so I'm pretty sure he's at least missing Defog at this point. So I'm going to go for Knockoff because I am Toxic. I can't be parried now, which is kind of nice. And Knockoff's going to do a hefty chunk to the Zapdos, potentially force him to Roost so I can get in my Mega Diancie. But getting rid of his leftovers is nice anyways to help out things like my Dragonite in the back. May not end up needing to Z this Zapdos after all. So Mega Diancie comes out here on a predicted Roost or Heat Wave. As he does go for the Heat Wave. Again, he's definitely got Roost on this set, but obviously has not shown it yet. And this is the easiest Bronzong of his life, so I'm going to double out into my Crocodile to try to Pursuit Trap this thing. Maybe in hindsight, I probably should have gone the Volcanion and just started throwing off Fire Blast. Like, what's he going to do? I just start throwing off Fire Blast right now, especially since I'm Assault Vest to help deal with the Manaphy. So maybe a little bit of a misplay on my end there, but I am able to get out into my Crocodile. I just click Pursuit here. It turns out he has Cobra Berry Bronzong, which is good and bad. Obviously, I don't do really any damage with the Pursuit there, but that means he doesn't have leftovers. So that means any chip damage on this thing is here to stay. He doesn't have Wish support or anything like that, and I don't believe anything on his team gets Healing Wish either. So the Bronzong chip is good, and I'm actually going to Pursuit again with my Crocodile, because I don't mind trading Crocodile for Bronzong here, because like I mentioned in my team builder, if I can get the Bronzong gone, Diancie just puts in work on his team. So he does switch out this time, and that means Pursuit's actually going to do a very hefty chunk. He should be, I think, in range of Moonblast after Stealth Rocks now, which is great for me. Zapdos comes out. He's almost definitely going to Roost, but I don't really feel like staying in to click Earthquake here, because that's just going to give him a free Blacephalon switch in. So what I'm actually going to do instead is just go out to my my Celebi this time, predicting him to maybe try to go for a Discharge to catch my Diancie if he wants to sack off his Zapdos, or more than likely going for Roost here. So he gets the Roost off with his Zapdos. That's fine by me. I can just throw off a Leech Seed with my Celebi here. It's pretty free. If he goes into Blacephalon, that's great. Should ease my switch in a little bit on that end. And then if he goes anything else, they're going to be taking the Leech Seed chip because he doesn't have a Grass type. So it does go for the Heat Wave here. Does very little to me because I am Spit Def. So Leech Seed plus leftovers here is going to get up a good bit of health on my Celebi here. And he really doesn't have a good Psychic switch in here. And he's definitely got to fear me having Synthesis and just sitting in his face. So I'm just going to go for the Psychic here and see what he wants to do. Goes out into the Bronzong just to sack it off. That's fine by me. Getting rid of the Bronzong is great. That means he can't get his Stealth Rocks back up if he happens to defog them later in the game with Zapdos. If he even does have defog on that Zapdos, we've seen Heat Wave, we've seen Toxic, and we've seen Roost at this point. So odds are he doesn't have defog, but if he does elect to defog later in the game, at least he won't be able to get the Bronzong to get the Stealth Rocks back up. So I'm just going to U-turn here to kill the Bronzong. Again, I could have just killed the Bronzong with any other move, but that would let the Blacephalon in. So I'm going to do the play that doesn't let the Blacephalon in, which is to bring out my Diancie here. Since I'm still not Mega Evolved, and I'm pretty sure again that he's Choice Scarf, Blacephalon is not a threat to the unmega evolved Diancie here. So gonna switch out into my Dragonite here, predicting a Earth Power from this Nidoqueen to come out. I really don't think he'd go for anything else, especially because you'd think like, oh well, at least I'll break the multi-scale on the Dragonite. I can Ice Beam that thing the following turn, whatever. But look at his team and look at Z Outrage. Exactly, we're clicking it. Z Outrage picks up a kill here, guaranteed. And him predicting me and going for Ice Beam there, I think was probably a bad play, or would have been a bad play had he gone for it versus my Diancie and I stayed in. So definitely, I think he made the right play going for Earth Power, because like, oh, you break the multi-scale on Dragonite, that's great. But the Z Outrage there is great for me. Getting rid of that Nidoqueen, which is a huge threat. Really nice. Here I'm just going to deny the Manaphy from getting any kind of free setup, because if he goes for Tail Glow and I go for an attack here, actually I went for Outrage. If I go for Outrage here and he goes for Tail Glow, he obviously can't outspeed my Diancie, or he can't KO the Dragonite. Like, he'd have to choose between the Z-Rain Dance and the Tail Glow there. So Outrage was pretty free there. If he didn't go for Tail Glow and he went for Z-Rain Dance instead, my Celebi would have been able to take a hit. You get the idea. Glade comes out here, presumably predicting a Giga Drain to come out from my Celebi here, but I'm just going to go right for Leech Seed once again. He definitely shouldn't risk his Manaphy at that point in the game, so I felt like Leech Seed was pretty free. I thought he might sack his Zapdos there, so Leech Seed I thought was just a really nice play overall, and this is kind of a free Cofagrigus if I want it, but instead what I like to do is sack the Crocodile, because Crocodile is kind of sitting there as Blacephalon bait right now, and I really do not like that. I'm pretty sure I'm in range of a Shadow Ball at this point, if I'm not mistaken. Definitely in range of a +1 Shadow Ball. So I actually went to sack Crocodile, but it works out because I end up catching the Zapdos. Again, this thing could either roost or it could go for Heat Wave. I don't care if it goes for Heat Wave, because now Diancie gets to pick up a kill, basically, with Moonblast. So if he roosts, I can just go for Power Gem the following turn. It's whatever. If he Heat Waves, as he does, and unfortunately misses, I can just throw off a Moonblast and KO something. Like, he's not going to go Blacephalon fearing a Power Gem, so this is a free Moonblast for me on my end. So Moonblast going to pick up the KO on Zapdos, and we are up 5-3 right now, but still by no means out of the woods yet. His 3 most threatening Pokemon are still there in the back, so he's got a couple options here. He could go out into Manaphy, or if that is Scarf Blacephalon, I think I might be in range of a Shadow Ball at this point. I'm not certain, but I think I am. So he goes out into Manaphy here, and again, I just can't let this thing set up for free in my face. So I'm going to go for Moonblast here, as he potentially would go for a Tail Glow, but he makes the right play and just goes straight for the Surf. I really didn't want to risk my Celebi there. If he goes for Tail Glow and then blows away my Celebi, I'm in a lot of trouble. So felt like I had to get the Moonblast chip damage off on the Manaphy there. That's actually really good for my Volcanion as well. But because he's not boosted right here, I can just go out to my Celebi and click Giga Drain. Again, I don't think you'd risk your Blacephalon, because if I just go for Psychic here, you're not going to be able to switch out anymore on Stealth Rock. So I feel like he's going to need to save his Blacephalon in the back. So I'm just going to go for the Giga Drain here, knock out the Manaphy, and get back, a decent amount of HP for it. Obviously, now the Blacephalon can come in if it wants to. Could also go Glade and just go straight for the knockoff to save his Blacephalon in the back. But I think his best play is probably to go out into Blacephalon here, because he just claims a KO. Nothing comes in on Shadow Ball right now. And like I mentioned, I'm pretty certain this is Scarf, and he should know at this point that I don't have any Scarfers bar a potential Scarf Volcanion in the back. So he goes for the Shadow Ball there and knocks out my Celebi. And this is really scary. Like, everything on my team but Volcanion dies to +1 Shadow Ball right now. And I did some calcs. Like, I waited a long time, real time here. Like, I knew I only had one play, which is to go out in Volcanion here. But in real time, I waited a very long time calcing. So, like, the first thing I calced was whether a standard Crocodile would live a +1 Shadow Ball, which of course it did not. And whether a standard Volcanion would live a +1 Shadow Ball, which after Stealth Rocks, it does not. So I made it seem as best I could, playing those kind of like out-of-game mind games. I made it seem like as best I could, like, oh man, I'm calculating all these things, and man, did I just lose? So basically trying to incentivize him to keep the Blacephalon in, because if he switches out the Blacephalon at this point in the match to go into the Glade, I think he might actually sweep me with Shadow Ball now that I've taken the Stealth Rock damage, because there wouldn't really have been a great way for me to both save my Volcanion and prevent the Glade from killing something. So yeah, I basically would have had to go into Cofagrigus or into Crocodile maybe as the Glade came out, but then Cofagrigus is going to be on the field afterwards to revenge kill the Glade, and then he gets a Beast Boost with Shadow Ball, and then I'm in range of +1 Shadow Ball because I would have switched in on Stealth Rocks twice. So I had to make sure I did everything possible to get him to stay in with his Blacephalon this turn, which is why I waited so long in real time, even though I knew what my play was already. So Thankfully, he does stay in with the Blacephalon, thinking Shadow Ball should knock me out, but because I'm Assault Vest, I am going to be able to tank that and go for the Steam Eruption and KO the Blacephalon, which was huge for me. Like I mentioned, if he did switch out the Blacephalon, I'm pretty sure I lost this game, but thankfully he did leave the Blacephalon in there, and now the Glade's going to come out. The only real hope he has is to SD in my face and try to sweep from there, so I could make the real big dick play and go for Flame Charge here, but that's definitely not worth it. So I'm just going to go for Steam Eruption here as he goes for the SD. I do have the Intimidate Sack in the back with Crocodiles, +1 knockoff is not going to KO my Cofagrius, so get the Steam Eruption here, and fortunately for me I do get a burn. I think that did only affect the differential at this point, because like I mentioned, I do have the Crocodile Sack in the back there. Obviously can't allow him to set up any further on me, but I'm just going to go for Flame Charge this turn in case he decides to try to do so, as he goes for the knockoff and KOs me. And now I can just pretty safely go out to my Cofagrius here. I'm guaranteed to live even a crit knockoff because of the burn, and even if I don't, like, he's going to die to burn next turn. So Cofagrius is going to come out here and pick up its KO with the Shadow Ball. Nice 2-0 victory for me. Very good game to Jarrett here. Very close game. Like I mentioned, big play there was trying to bait in the Blacephalon, bait it to stay in, that is, against my Volcanion. Like if I was Choice Scarf Volcanion, maybe like there's a potential he would have lost if he switched out there. So I can understand wanting to stay in there, especially because like at +1, Volcanion should KO everything that was left at that point. Bar literally Assault Vest Volcanion there. Like even I think max close, maybe not max Spadef Volcanion, but like max HP Volcanion, I think even still dropped from +1 Shadow Ball at that range. So the Assault Vest really coming through there to pick up the KO on the Blacephalon. Very good game, like I said again, to Jarrett. And yeah, that's our first win in OLT. It's always nice to get off the schneid, especially early in the season. Didn't want to start out 0-2 for sure. And hopefully we can continue winning going forward here. Like I mentioned, it is only an 8-week season, so every game really counts. So definitely trying to win all of them going forward. Hopefully I can start prepping a little bit better for the OLT. I feel like my first couple teams here have not been necessarily my best prep, but definitely going to try to rectify that going forward and get some better ideas flowing as I get more familiar with the team. So thank you guys very much for watching if you did to this point. Hope you guys tune in for another video, and I will see you all next time. Later.